Welcome to Beyond Table Talk, a space for real people and real conversations that move us from awareness to action. Each episode dives deep into the issues that impact our daily lives, financially, emotionally, and socially, with real talk from real people. We're so glad you've joined us, and we've got a powerful conversation ahead. Whether you're tuning in live or catching the replay, thank you for being a part of this community. Now let's get into it. Meet our moderator.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond Table Talk, a signature conversation powered by the Association for Black Economic Power. I'm Sharon Taylor, and I'll be your moderator for tonight's conversation on generational wealth, what it really means, and how to start. Before we get started, please scan the QR code on your screen to complete our brief pre-survey. Your feedback shapes future conversations like this one. Before we begin tonight's discussion, we would like to also thank and recognize the supporters who make programming like Beyond Table Talk possible. We extend our sincere appreciation to Wells Fargo, our legacy partner, and to First Bank and Trust, and Archie and Bertha Walker Foundation, our community supporters. The QR code is on the screen. Please make sure you get a chance to scan that. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am excited to get started. So before we get into tonight's discussion, let's get started with talking about today's topic. When people hear about the term generational wealth, they often think it only applies to wealthy people. But generational wealth is really about creating financial stability, assets, knowledge, and opportunities that can benefit future generations. Tonight, we'll explore what generational wealth actually means, common misconceptions about building wealth, and practical ways people can start wherever they are today. I am joined tonight with two guests who bring both professional expertise and real world insights to tonight's conversation. Jeremy, welcome tonight, and let's get started with talking about you. Please introduce yourself and your background. What led you into real estate and the work you do today?
First of all, I want to say good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Jeremy Jones. I'm a realtor. My brand is JJ Homes. REMAX Professionals is the brokers that I'm associated with. I wanted to become a realtor just to provide service to others. I'm a big fan of giving back. I also like having the capacity to help individuals and families, win and achieve their real estate goals.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here tonight too with one of our other fabulous panelists who you may have recognized from one of our other shows, but Pia. Pia, will you take a moment to introduce yourself as a personal risk specialist? What does that mean? And how does that relate to tonight's conversation?
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Pia T-Bout. I am an insurance advisor, a personal risk specialist, an insurance agent that focuses on risk evaluation and protecting people's personal assets. I entered into this field a little over 10 years ago, and with not many people of color in the field, I felt like it was a great place for me to make my mark, for me to take the education route and teach and educate on insurance, why it's needed, and why it's important in our world today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely need your perspective. Welcome to you both. So let's just jump right in, if you don't mind. If you've ever wondered whether generational wealth is possible for your family, tonight's conversation is for you. As always, we invite our people who are on the screen with us. They're in various platforms. So we invite you to stay engaged throughout tonight's discussion by sharing your questions and thoughts in the chat as we go along. So I'm going to start with talking about the personal journey behind building wealth. Again, we hear this in a lot of communities. What does that mean? Jeremy, will you start us off and what drew you into real estate and what kept you going during the periods when success wasn't guaranteed?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, what drew me to real estate is just having the capacity to help individuals and families win and achieve their real estate goals, whether it's buying or selling. Also knowing that, real estate is primarily commission based. And so what motivates me is that, I don't, failure is not an option for me because it does not exist in my world. I wake up every morning with the concept of world domination, also with the mindset of knowing that I will significantly impact the lives of somebody today, each and every day.
Awesome. Awesome. World domination. That's something.
I like that.
Yeah. That reminds me of Pinky and the Brain.
Definitely.
Had to go way back for that one.
Always.
But world domination is very relative to our conversation tonight as we talk about building generational wealth, especially when wealth hasn't been handed to you. So thank you. Thank you for that. So Pia, what led you into helping families protect their assets? And why has that work become so meaningful for you? You said you've been in it for 10 years. You were in the game early before people were even thinking about this.
Yes, it actually, the career field kind of dropped into my lap. I was doing medical billing and coding and just really kind of maxed out at the cap of earnings there and was looking for a career field where the earning would be, there would be no cap. So I was looking for something in sales and fell into insurance. And initially it was a little hard. I wasn't too sure where I would find my footing there. But after the years and different experiences and meeting different people, I found out that it's the right place to be. Talking to people, especially purchasing homes, the new home buyers, doing courses and things of that nature, talking to people starting up their lives and coming into different things that are bringing them more wealth and teaching them how to protect it so we can make sure we keep that, just became a passion of mine throughout the years. And I just rode with that.
Awesome. I see Darlene has joined us. Thank you for joining us online, Darlene. She has a question. What exactly is generational wealth? I mean, let's start us with the basics of defining that. Who would like to jump in on that? What does it mean to you?
Okay, I'll go first.
Ladies first.
Okay, thank you. Well, the term generational wealth just meaning being able to leave some wealth to family members as we pass along, or even while we're living, just something that we could pass on to our future generations and have them be able to build so they don't have to do the hard things that we had to do to be able to survive and support ourselves. Making sure that you're teaching financial literacy to your children and just bringing up that conversation in the household is a big thing to kind of start off with, to make sure that you can get the children and everyone in the household working together, making sure we understand the importance of creating wealth that can sustain generations for our families.
It definitely is. So generations to come, building it now and creating that so that it goes on and on throughout the legacy of the teapot, the family structure.
Yes.
Yes, Jeremy, what would you add to that? Your definition of generational wealth?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, just kind of leaving a legacy behind for your significant others, whether it be, your family, your children, your next of kin, things like that. Just leaving that legacy behind.
Absolutely. And so our conversation tonight will be around how do we get started on that? If you haven't already started, we're going to give some tips around that. And then how do you leave that legacy behind? That's a great one. So as we talk about, Pia brought up, teaching financial literacy or lessons that we should learn. Looking back, what financial lessons do you wish you had learned? Even if it was like 10 years earlier than you learned it. What were some of those lessons? Let's start up here.
I wish that it was a conversation, growing up in the household. I'm not sure how you guys came up. We didn't really talk about saving money and the things that money can do for us to help make more money. It was more so you get money and you're going out shopping or you're going to have a good time with it, like what you can do with it in the moment to make yourself happy, not anything where we were thinking about future, put some away, let's do this with it so it can grow. I didn't have that conversation in my household growing up. So I think that that's one thing. If we can start with that, that would start the younger people in our family thinking differently about, okay, when I get some money, this is what I actually should do with it versus spending it all or trying to have a good time with it. Let's separate it and save some and do this and do that. Just that conversation, I think, will be a big change. If we could just do that one small thing, I think that would help us out a lot.
Okay, so you're not saying we're not supposed to have an entertainment budget. We can have a good time and live our lives, but how do we save it? Plan for that.
Correct.
Okay, Jeremy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I would say for me, one thing I wish I would have learned at a young age is just the importance of credit, right? And how to safeguard that credit. Growing up, I made a lot of financial, poor decisions that I had to pay for, literally and figuratively, and nowadays everything revolves around credit. So just the importance of it, what is it to start with, and just the overall importance of it is what I wish I would have learned at a young age.
Yeah, that's huge. That is a big one because it's not only just that bill, but it's the other ones to follow because now your credit's ruined. You have to pay higher on something when someone else is paying a less rate because they have a better credit score. Yeah, understanding that one is huge. And I think most people of this generation learned that when they either left for college and got all the credit card offers that they were bombarding young people with, or somewhere in that time. So yeah, those both are great points to say if we had done it differently, financial literacy and learning more about credit. So what about, was there a moment or decision that changed the trajectory of your financial future? Let's start with Jeremy.
Yeah, like I said, I made a lot of financial decisions that weren't the best choices, and so I had to kind of make up for the lost, the situation that I put myself in. Kind of had to claw my way out, and so during that time, I had to make a decision to be more financially responsible, and in doing that, I was able to kind of lift myself up out of my financial, poor decision making. And now I'm more in the positive, more so than anything.
See, you sound so responsible. We're all family here. What you talking about? What you do, Jeremy, that we could get our viewers to learn from the don't do? And how did you get out of it?
Well, like just got credit cards. I was very popular back in the day from all these credit card companies, right? And so I took full advantage of them, very frivolous, bought this and that and this. And like I said, I ended up having to pay for it literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Pia, what about you? When was the decision? Thanks for sharing that, Jeremy. I'm all in your business.
No worries.
Well, what really changed my mindset, I think getting into insurance, learning about asset protection, working with clients, seeing how many homes they own, the vehicles they drove, we're about the same age. Like, what are they doing differently than me? And then making those different decisions. I mean, just to be honest, I had to claw myself out of a hole as well. I filed bankruptcy many years ago, and it gave me a fresh start to say, okay, now I'm starting at ground zero. Let's see what we can do differently. And listening to different podcasts and reading different books. And after years getting with ABAB and joining that financial education task force and just learning, put it to use. So it took years, but it's definitely doable.
So don't give up. Now you mentioned asset protection. What are you saying when we talk about asset protection, especially if someone feels like they don't really have assets? What would that look like?
So asset protection in the form of insurance, right? So we purchase vehicles, we purchase homes, making sure we have some coverage. So if something happens and they get damaged or they're stolen, you can be reimbursed for those items. So that's a big thing. A lot of us maybe insurance is a little more expensive. Maybe you feel like you can't afford it, but having some type of insurance on an item that you worked hard to purchase that new vehicle. And now it's totaled and you don't get any money back from it. Just understanding that while I worked hard to purchase this item, now I need to make sure I protect it. You could get insurance on your jewelry. You can get insurance on your vehicles. Anything that's of good value, you can put a policy on. And a lot of times they're not too expensive. So if you know that, the more we know better, we can do better. Just having that knowledge, I was able to put that in place and make sure that things were happening differently. And of course, changing my mindset. Like I said earlier, knowing that, okay, yep, you got a paycheck, but it's not to just have a good time. Put your savings up first, pay your bills, and then what's left, you can do what you want to do with it. But you can't do what you want to do first, right? And then look at the end and you don't have enough for what needs to be done. That's the way I did it initially, being young and irresponsible. And then when I did my reset, I reprogrammed myself to do it the opposite way. And it worked out very well.
Nice. Yeah. So like, talk about something like discipline of where you're saving those things and making sure you prioritize. And it sounds like you're saying prioritize insurance, which some people might think that, well, not this month. And you're saying don't run the risk of that, is what I hear you saying. Like, make sure you're paying that and you are protecting things that have value.
Yes, definitely. And protecting yourself as well. Because if you're driving and you're in an accident and you're at fault, you're going to owe that money. And the thing is, if you don't have it right now, they'll take your future earnings. They'll wait your entire life. They'll be sitting and waiting. As you're making that money, they will take it from you in death. So you just want to make sure that you have something in place,
Yeah, yeah. So we talking about life insurance too when we talk about that? And you made me think
when we're talking about generational wealth, we're talking about life insurance too, because that's a big way to pass on monies to your loved ones. Some policies, depending on what point in your life that you purchase them, and the type of policy, like a term policy, those aren't very expensive. You could get a 20, 30-year term for less than $100, and then you pass away and your family gets a few $100,000s of money. So, we're talking about that when we're talking about the generational wealth. That is one of the biggest ways to pass on generational wealth, is to have life insurance. And there's policies that you can get on children that are really inexpensive, that are cash growing, and you can grow cash there tax-free. So there's all different types of life insurance that you can get to help you with that generational wealth. Yep, that's one of the biggest ways.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, especially if you are the breadwinner of the family or not. I mean, but that it's considered an asset. Life is an asset, and definitely an asset to the family. Yeah. I see you nodding along, Jeremy. I wanted to bring you into this conversation about when people talk about generational wealth, like, what do they often get wrong? I know you shared your personal story, thank you. But what are some things when you hear about it, maybe in community, what are they getting wrong about it?
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily getting anything wrong. It's just kind of lack of communication, right? Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? So there's that educational piece, right? And so they can't do better if they don't know better, right? So it's very important to provide the educational component for, for example, like, what are wills, what are trusts, what are estate planning, things like that. Passing the information along to them will be much more beneficial to them as they continue on with their lives and focus on the generational wealth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you both are speaking about, in various ways, education. And I love what you shared, P, about I just had to learn it. Find it, join this group, talk to these folks. Similarly, educating yourself on what is financial literacy, what does wealth look like. That's awesome. Okay, from the perspective of a realtor, so where does home ownership fit into this conversation around generational wealth?
Yeah, so when you pay the principal part of a mortgage, you're in essence paying yourself. You're building the equity to kind of pass on to your future generations. You can use it as leverage. You can sell it, or you can pass it on to your children. And then also, like I mentioned, you can set up wills, trust, estate, which are all legal tools to kind of manage or transfer assets to your children or the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So wills and trusts, finding something like that. Okay, home ownership. So there's been some thoughts around renting versus home ownership for conversations as it relates to generational wealth tonight. What would you say? I mean, do you have a perspective on that as it relates to where we are currently in this economy?
Of course I do. So when
Okay.
you rent, you're really paying somebody else's mortgage, right? You're not getting anything in return. But when like I said, when you pay your mortgage, you're in essence paying yourself, which will, uh, create equity, right? And that'll kind of contribute towards generational wealth because as your property value appreciates, you'll get more money on the back end of things. So it's all kind of relative to generational wealth. And so if you own something such as a home, you're able to kind of pass that on to generations, down the line. Whereas if you rent, there's nothing to pass on other than just money to your landlord.
Wow. Yikes. When you
Yeah.
put it like that.
In a nutshell.
I did, yeah, it is a such thing. I do recall younger years, people saying their grandma left them a house in my 20s, and it was kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that? But now older and remembering those, we're calling that like, oh, you have your grandma's, yeah, and I was paying rent, in my
Right.
20s. So
Yeah.
they were in grandma's house and left down and all of that money. I suppose they were putting it away and putting some towards that entertainment budget, at the same time. But
Absolutely.
that makes sense. So paying yourself then in that way. So Pia, if we talk about for average families, what does generational wealth look like for an average family? Like we're not talking about a millionaire family. I'm assuming they already have people in place of their accountant and their such and such, and they have those kind of documents written up. But for your average family, what would you suggest?
Well, what I would suggest for the average family is let's start with holding regular family financial meetings. Let's have a family conversation about finances. Let's understand how everyone feels about the finances, about money in general, right? Our relationship with money, and start teaching our children young what type of relationship that they should have with money, as I mentioned earlier. And then set shared goals. Maybe we all sit at the table, we say, okay, the kids are going to save $5 from their allowance for a month, and us adults are going to say, we can start at $20. We can start at $10. You don't have to have a whole lot initially to start off with something small. Set small goals, and then you can invest together if you're able to. Now that's if you're able to, and you can support education and support entrepreneurship. In our community, we have a lot of us that are very talented and have different things that we can do. We can make things, we can create things, sell some of those things. Start off with understanding that you can work a job, but you could create your own items and have some income from that as well. And then passing down those values along with whatever assets you may have at the end, I think will help us get onto a better platform when we're trying to start the generational wealth conversation in our homes.
You know what, Pia? I'm just going to keep it very real with you. I'm still stuck on holding financial family meetings. I'm like, oh, that is a concept because my parents didn't say nothing about nothing, as far as like money goes. But holding financial meetings with the family and children being a part of that conversation, so breaking it down to what they can save and what they can sell. When my niece just had a lemonade stand for a 2-hour block. I swear she made a couple $100. I was like, wow, with just families and friends and neighbors coming through. So that could be the entrepreneurial, you're never too young for that type of, and kids are creative.
They are.
So
that's why we have these conversations with them. Definitely.
Oh, I think we lost each other for a moment there. Pia?
Yes.
Okay, we're back. Did I was saying about the entrepreneur stuff. What were you and your support around that?
About the entrepreneurship, I think that it's good
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of we look like the kids are the future, they're the next wave, and now they're so smart and have so many different things going. So having these conversations, we never know, the 6-year-old in our family could be the one that can make us the multimillionaire family with their idea. We never know. So that's why now I'm glad with the world that we have more conversations. Back when we were growing up, it was mute. You didn't talk about certain stuff. You just didn't. You just didn't. Now we do. And we see a lot of things are being developed and they're being brought up with children in mind, and that having those conversations and making sure that we can help them along is where it's at. I think that's what's going to bring us to the next step in our communities.
That's amazing. I love how you put that. We didn't do that, but now we do. And moving right on, now we do. That's the new norm.
Yeah.
Instead of staying in that space of I didn't. Now we do. I love that. Let's get it started. Let's get it going. Okay, so was there something you wanted to add to that, Jeremy?
No, but I think Pia hit everything on the head, right? For the most part.
Yeah. What are some signs that a family may already be building generational wealth without even realizing that? What would you say to that?
Well, I think a perfect example is when you take your kids to the gas station or to watch a movie, and you say, okay, here's $10, go get some snacks. Well, they have to budget accordingly based on that $10, right? So, for example, the first couple of times they might only be able to get 2 bags of chips, right? But then the more and more they do it, they might be like, okay, well, I can get 4 items with this $10 instead of just 2, right? So again, you're teaching financial literacy through real world example, whether it be a gas station, grocery store, out to a movie, because they can't go past that $10, so they have to budget accordingly.
That's awesome. Budgeting within their world, say, so if they're going to the gas station or it's the tooth fairy or those kind of things where children get income, how they would be able to budget that, birthday gifts and that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's a wonderful idea. And then having those conversations, even afterwards, like Pia said, oh, you got 2 things. Next time, what about this? You look a little thirsty with 2 bags of chips.
And then, it's all about decisions, right? Do you need the 2 bags of chips, or can you get 1 bag of chips and then 1 drink, right? It's all about decisions. The world is revolved around decisions.
And the decisions are always different when you give them the money and it's their money versus when they're spending yours. They got 10 cents at the register when it's your money. Yeah, that's a good idea, Jeremy. I like that.
Oh, for sure. Because when it's their money, they don't want to go to the drive-through anymore.
Oh yeah, the mindset definitely changes. My 17-year-old will definitely attest to that.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're not hungry anymore. That sweet treat is no longer a necessity.
Exactly.
So when it's coming out of their pocket. Well, you have a 17-year-old. That means you're doing gas. You're talking about gas purchasing and those kinds of things as well. Then to real life experiences for that age group.
Yeah. And so one of the things, so she has a job. So one of the things I've told her is I've kind of been trying to teach her the 70-30 rule, right? So 70% of it goes into the bank, and then 30% of it goes into your pocket for whatever you want to expend it on, right? So just kind of teaching her at kind of a young age to kind of get her mind, moving forward, because once she gets out in the real world, as we all know, the real world is not kind, right? So you need to be prepared.
Right. They will hit you with late charges and additional service fees and the tax on that.
All of it.
All of
Definitely.
that. For sure. So yeah. Oh yes. So those are really great tips that you both I'm sharing with our audience tonight. I hope they're taking notes on this too. It's just real life kind of stuff that, and that question was really around like families, day-to-day life. What are you doing? How do you do it? How are you? And the 70-30 rule is one of those ways too. So you just say, okay, if you have $10, how much is 70 of that? How much is 30? And what are you going to do with that? Formulating a plan. That's why I really love that family conversations. I'm going to have to do more of those and not when I'm angry. Not when I'm bothered, I'll say. So what are some signs? Okay, we talked about that they're already in it, like signals that they're already building generational wealth. Is that generational wealth though? We were doing financial literacy tips, and how can you take the mindset from I'm budgeting, I'm doing well, I'm working, to I'm building, and I'm building for legacy that we talked about earlier? How do you incorporate that into what we would say the average family?
So once you stabilize yourself now, right, then you think, what can I build today that my children won't have to start over from scratch? So what am I going to do now that they can just build on top of? That's passing it on to the next generation, right? Mm-hmm. And then what can I leave? How can I leave assets instead of liabilities? Making sure that we're not creating a lot of debt in our lives. So where when we pass away, our life insurance has to go to paying off our debts.
Yeah.
I think that's how it kind of transitions over into the generation. We're giving them the mindset. Now we're doing things to leave them the money. We purchase the home if we're able to. We get the life insurance policies. If we're able to, you do some estate planning where you have your home titled in a trust maybe, or something like that, to where there's less tax implications when you do different things like that. And it gets passed along to them immediately, and they don't have to go to probate and get a lot of money taken out because of a will. And then they get the monies that way. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. But when we start with that conversation, then you do the 70-30. Now they already have it in their mind. And if we can actually lead them something, then I think it all just flows, right?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're laying out kind of a blueprint to it. Jeremy, you were going to add to that?
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to add is, like, even before all that, like, you know, it's never too late to start, right? And then on top of that, like, there's no need to be ashamed, right? Like, some people are like, oh, you know, but it really doesn't matter where you start. Like, you know, if you have bad credit or you haven't started to save money, it doesn't really matter. All that really matters is where you end up in the long run, right? So it all starts really with the mindset first and foremost before anything can be implemented.
Back to that. Now
we mentioned that, Jeremy, because a lot of times people are in such a hole that you don't see a way out. There's a way out of every hole. First,
absolutely.
Beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Second, start where you can start. If you got to start saving $5, start something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can definitely do it. I like that.
So if you're able to right now, but it's coming. So start with what you have. So if it's $2, if it's $5, if it's $10, and keep moving on from there. Like every hole is able to dig out of. Absolutely. Yeah. It's all very temporary, because Jeremy would have still been in credit card debt from back in his 20s.
I sure would have been. Thank God I'm not anymore.
That's right. Exactly. So it's all very temporary, and creating a plan. Like I was saying about that blueprint, setting goals, putting that aside, and then going from there. That's wonderful. Okay, so beyond home ownership, what other health building tools should families be paying attention to? For example, and Pia, you touched on this earlier, you both had like retirement accounts. We spoke about life insurance. Are there particular investments or small business ownership kind of things? You talked about entrepreneurship. Are we missing anything?
You want to take that, Jeremy?
Ladies first.
Are we missing anything in the growth aspect of it? Or we're looking at...
Yeah, any other tools? I love how you've been giving some very practical tools along with some strategy. These are the, for lack of a better word, like commercial. This is what you need to go get. Insurance, go get it. And here's how you plan to do that. Are there anything else you can think of, like wealth building tools? What would you say?
I would say part of it would be making better decisions, not taking the high interest credit cards, not taking the high interest auto loans, to where you're not paying a lot of extra money for interest, where in other ways you wouldn't be, right? I think
Uh-oh.
that's the way. What would you say, Jeremy?
Wait, can you
Now,
repeat that one, Pia?
I said not taking high interest. I said making different decisions. I would start by making different decisions with what you're doing on a daily basis. Not taking those high interest credit cards, not taking payday loans, not taking the high interest auto loan because you're throwing a lot of money away just paying that extra interest.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would
Jeremy,
add
I'm
on
sorry,
to
you
that,
were going to
just
say.
kind of establishing, savings accounts for your children, for example, like the compound interest ones, that accumulate over time. Just making small steps like we've talked about makes a big difference overall, because it's always about the singles and not the home runs, right, in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So having that mindset again.
And so, perfect. Okay, so Pia, what you're suggesting when you say don't take the high interest credit card loan or payday loan or those kind of companies, and then you went like the car loan. Instead, what would people do? Like, I need a car to get to work. What would you suggest?
Instead, you would try, and I know this sounds, because we're talking about if we're not having a whole lot of money, we could try to maybe get a cash car, or maybe we take a bus to work for a while, or maybe we get a ride from somebody for a while.
Sure. So
try to find a program that can help depending on your income level. That can help you. There's a lot of programs out that can help you, that have grants that will help you get vehicles and help you with transportation, especially if you have children or you're disabled or anything that you have going on. They have different programs. Try to utilize those tools to see if you can get help. Go to credit union, see if you have a bank, if they can help you. Try not to, right? But I understand that sometimes maybe you can't avoid it. I understand that different decisions that we make in our lives makes us ineligible for these things, but just having the different mindset and trying to make the different decisions hopefully can get you into a better place.
Yeah, and so that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, very practical. So, and saying there's no shame in it, find support rather than taking that risk, because that can set you back, not just you, but for generations, because then it helps. So instead of taking the high car loan, instead, maybe look for something that's not as expensive or not as risky of a loan by going ask for a program, seek some support. So those are amazing suggestions. I'm sure people are like, okay, because then oftentimes we don't know. I think Jeremy said it earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And just you dropping those little tidbits about there are tons of programs here in Minnesota. Look for them in your city. For our viewers who are joining us everywhere, there are programs to help with that kind of thing. And instead of taking the risk now, do something else. Pause and think of something else. Yeah, perfect. Jeremy, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to say that it's at the end of the day, it's okay to ask for help, right? We all need help. Not everybody can do everything on their own, right? So again, just having that mindset, like if you got to ask for help, it's all going to be worth it in the end. Nothing, again, to be ashamed of at all. It is what it is.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the smaller things too. Like I'm going to get a ride with, or I'm going to take the bus with, asking for help and not having that, shame in that is what it is. Now we do. I'm walking around it that way. I'm going to have to put that up somewhere. And now we do. Moving right along. So that answers one of the questions I was going to ask you too. I was going to ask you both. If someone has limited financial resources, where should they focus first? And to create a strong foundation. And so some of that was right in that answer about eliminating the risk, or as much as possible, decreasing that risk. And then what else might you add to that about eliminating financial, if you have limited financial resources?
I would just say, I would just say having conversations, right? Like, don't be afraid to, have conversations with people. So for example, if I have some insurance inquiries, I'm going to ask Pia, right? Because she's the expert, right? So, once she has that conversation with me, now I'll be more informed, more educated, for example, right? So it all literally starts with having conversations But even before that, you got to be courageous sometimes to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with the goal in mind of legacy and building wealth, not just for today, but for
definitely. And then you could start with creating a budget for yourself. So if you have limited finances, look at your budget, write down everything and look at where maybe you can shave a couple of dollars off here. Maybe you can do this a little bit differently. See where you can find a little movement where you can maybe put that $5 or $10 away if you're able to. But if you're just like, we're going to take this in small pieces, right? If you make different decisions, even if you can't save, let's say you can't, but now this month, instead of getting 5 Starbucks coffees, I got 1 and I paid my light bill on time. This is an example. That's an improvement. You didn't get to save anything, but that's a big improvement. If you get 1% better every day by doing something like that, by the end of the year, you'll be a nice distance away from where you were when you started. And when you start that way and keep going, you never know where you can make it to.
The smaller sacrifices that add up. For our viewers, we have had an episode, check our archives, where we talked about those kind of decisions, like getting rid of that subscription. That may be $10 an additional month, and just adding that somewhere. But yeah, it's those kind of eating out every day, change that up a little bit. The small little changes you think might not impact can be very impactful, is what I hear you saying.
Definitely. And I like that you mentioned subscriptions. Check your subscriptions, because many of us have subscriptions that we're paying for that we don't even use. We're just throwing money down the drain. Look at what you're actually paying for. Look at your bank account. Look at the transactions. People miss things daily just because we're not paying attention. So yeah, I think that those are ways that you can start. If you can't actually save the money, just at least take it a deep dive look, be optimistic, believe in yourself that you can do it. Have your positive affirmations that you say to yourself every day, put some positivity on it, and it'll happen for you, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Then taking the steps. So based on wherever you are, taking those steps. Oh, so I want to take our people, we're talking about how to get started with generational wealth today. And I want to bring us to what are some of the biggest risks that can quietly derail a family's wealth building efforts. So they're making their plans, their goal setting, they're having family conversations around it, planning for, if you're not in a space right now, don't have it right now, but planning for. What are some of their biggest risks? So we can have our audience members aware of, here's some pitfalls to watch out for. Pia.
I would say one is impulsive spending, right? You just having a bad day, maybe retail therapy makes you feel better. Let me go. Try your best not to do that. Just setting yourself back, right? Do you have one you'd like to add, Jeremy?
Yeah, I would just say, losing motivation, losing focus, right? Because we all, life is always lifing, right? And so you can be on track in a linear fashion, but then some life variable takes into effect, and now you're derailed a little bit. So it's your job intrinsically, mentally, emotionally, all that, to get back on track and focus on the goal at hand.
Can you plan for those type of risks? Is there a way to do that? I mean, everything you can't be mindful of, but can you plan accordingly for?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, so for example, as a realtor, I tell my clients, okay, we're about to purchase a home. I tell them to save up a certain amount of money, right? Because once you purchase the home, for example, life is always going to life. So if something might go wrong in the home, you'll have some of that emergency fund money that you saved up to use towards whatever expense that you need to use it towards now. So you can kind of plan for things here and there, but not always.
But having some type of emergency fund might be
definitely
possible.
Yeah. You always want to be more proactive than reactive, if possible.
Yeah. So if you have a job with a 401k, make sure you're putting into your 401k up to the match. If they're matching up to 3%, put that in there. Yep. That's a way to maybe help avoid issues. Then if something were to happen, you can always pull from it. People don't advise that, but that is money there that you can use in a desperate situation. Having that emergency savings, if you're able to do that, if you do have an issue with a job or something like that, you'll have some money to pull from. So just making sure you can stash things in places for a rainy day if you're able to.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard you in there. I had a little technical issue on my end, but I heard you talk about 401ks or plans that you can look to your work for. Again, that may be resources for people. And then if you absolutely need to, you can pull from something like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I just want to make sure I heard part of that. And then you just some people had the old can, the Folgers can, and that they saved up for a rainy day. We can still do that, can we? We can still do that. Yeah. Plan for a rainy day in that aspect. To our viewers, please remember that you are part of this conversation. Drop in a comment, question. What are you thinking out there? I want to say, after Jeremy, you touched on this as a homeowner perspective about what mistakes or things they can plan for, like things that might derail them. But what mistakes do you see people make after they begin accumulating assets? So they've been on a good roll and they've been watching it grow. What do you see happening that we can tell our viewers tonight?
Absolutely. So a great example that I have is one of my clients was saving a lot of money, and then all of a sudden she went on a cruise not too long ago, and the money that she had saved up for purchasing a home is pretty much depleted based on the cruise that she just went on. Nothing wrong with going on a cruise. I would have advised to wait until after you purchase your home to go on that cruise, because now the money that you had saved, you no longer have that same amount. So just making those decisions, what's more of a priority, the home or the cruise?
Mm-hmm. And again, relative to our conversation tonight on building generational wealth, which one is going to be the most important?
A cruise is not going to help you build generational wealth. It'll be more fun, but it's not going to help you build generational wealth.
Yeah.
That goes back to what we were talking about, decision making, right? If we can shape our minds to get a grasp of what the goal is and make better decisions, it'll alleviate like 80% of things that can happen. I mean, things are going to happen, right? You can't control everything, but if you could at least make better decisions, that'll put us in a better place.
For sure. And some of those things we thought we needed, really wanted, once it's gone, I haven't missed it,
Right.
You'll be fine, like, oh, I didn't need all those subscriptions anyway. Or I don't know why I was paying them a fee to get my check a little bit earlier. I figured it out. Now I can wait a couple of days and it cost me nothing, So some of those things, like you said, being a little bit more, I'll use the word disciplined, even though I'm not a fan of that word, but yeah. But having that mindset.
Mindful.
That's a nice one. I like that. Definitely.
Yeah, me too. Being mindful, giving pause to it, because I can see how the cruise will really dip into the budget that you were saving. Definitely. I see Darlene has a question. Thanks, Darlene. Thanks for still being here. How do I make sure that the resources I accumulate are not wasted?
That's a good question.
Well, I think it just starts with taking, initiative right off top, right? So once you get the resources that you need, don't just hang on to them, use them to the best of your capacity, right? I mean, that's really what I think, would be best served.
And when I do my savings, I put it in a place where I can't get to it easily. So if I'm going to make an impulse buy, it's not going to be with that money because I can't even get to it quickly. So I guess maybe allocating what it's for and just being mindful, because we're not going to use the other word, right? And not use it for something outside of that. And like we said, things happen that are out of our control, but trying to just make that decision and understand this is for this, and I'm not going to touch it unless this happens, and try to just stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So sticking with it. Some key things tonight that we talked about. I mean, time flies, and we have about last 10 minutes or so. And this is not to rush you. I really want to make sure that I give some time to you guys and our audience to be reflective on some of the things here that we talked about. Is there some things that I didn't cover tonight that you want to make sure we get to our listeners?
Not necessarily that you didn't cover, but I just would like to say, like, with increasing our financial literacy is very important. And, you know, we have the Financial Literacy Task Force with ABAB, getting involved with different organizations that have these programs to help give the knowledge is very important. Learn budgeting, learn about investing, taxes, insurance, estate planning. We can look all these things up on Google and just read up a little bit about it on a daily basis or once a week. Just pick a little article to read. The more knowledge we have behind these items, we'll make different decisions and be able to do different things. And then look at the things that we've listed that says that help grow generational wealth, right? Real estate, life insurance, different estate planning, creating businesses. What can I create and leave to my children that they can build onto it to have a sustainable life? And how can I leave assets instead of liabilities? Let's not create a lot of debt in our lives to where when we go, our life insurance money is getting taken for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that we're allocating that now too. We can almost predict how much it's going to cost. And so even having some way of making sure that it's not a liability later is by paying for those things up front now. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. And then what about P, I'm gonna put you on a spot here for a second because we're both on this task force, but you mentioned ABEP has a financial literacy task force. What can you tell us about that, about our listening audience? Because that is a viable resource for people to look into. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. We have one-on-one coaching opportunities where you could get a coach that you could work with for a certain amount of time. And we'll work with you and set whatever goals, whatever financial goals you'll have. We'll assess that and help you reach them, give you some education, talk to you about different things, set some tasks for you to do, to meet with us periodically, to set up what needs to be done. We will literally hold your hand and help you get these things done and be someone that you can call on and have a resource to help you get to where you're trying to go. We can get anywhere we need and do what we need to do when we have the resources and the help and the people with the knowledge giving it to us. And the task force has that. We go out to different organizations doing these coaching. We do the one-on-one coachings. Check us out. We're more than happy to help you.
That is awesome. So all the steps and things that we talked about tonight, just know that ABEP, in addition to this wonderful platform that we have, Beyond Table Talk, but also one-on-one coaching, financial literacy, so going to organizations, holding your hand through it. So putting that support in play. So before I get to you, Jeremy, I want you to share some extra steps before we go. But I see Darlene has said she would clarification on her question. She was talking about how do we make sure that generational wealth, so we make all these sacrifices right now. I'm doing this, I built it up. How do I make sure it's not wasted by my children or descendants? What would I do there? Is there some ways that we can protect that so they're just not out making it rain after I gave up all my coffees and trips?
Definitely. That's where estate planning comes into play. You can get an estate planner and tell them what you would like to see happen, and they will put the things in place to keep our youngins from being able to just squander what we put away from them. That's a wonderful question. Estate planners help with that every day. Yes, definitely.
An estate planner, and they can help create that plan, put some guardrails around it.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Thank you, Darlene, for putting that question in there and clarifying that for us. Jeremy, before we go, I want to also, as a tradition too, to talk about practical action steps. So what are some things you want to share and make clear with our audience about what they can do and what they can get started with right now if they haven't building generational wealth?
Absolutely. The first thing is, like I said, it's never too late to start, and we live in such a fast-paced society that it's very important to carve out some time to have those conversations with our youth about, and saving money, the importance of it. And I think that you'll know that you're starting to head down the right direction when kids can tell you the why behind something, right? So once they can do that, that lets you know that, hey, we're on the right track to building generational wealth for our youth.
Wait, before I let you go, what do you mean by that? Tell you the why behind doing something. What do you mean by that?
So if kids can tell you like, okay, we're doing this because of this reason, for example, like we're doing the 70-30 thing because we're saving as much money as we can and not spending all of it, they can articulate that. That will let you know firsthand that what you're doing as far as financial literacy, for example, is working. And that's one of the steps towards building generational wealth.
Mm-hmm. So changing that mom isn't just a penny pincher or just cheap or that kind of thing, but actually having a purposeful why, and that it is something that we're all contributing to. Okay. And then you know that you're on the right track for. And P, I didn't ask you that question just like that, but you gave so much information already. I'm like, did I tap into, if you had one thing to say or one clear message, what would it be? Because I know you already gave given us so much to work with.
It would be changing your mindset and decision making. Let's work on how you feel about it and your decisions. If you can control that, so many things will change for you. And be positive and optimistic, regardless of how you feel. It can work. If you keep doing this daily, it will work for you for sure.
Yeah, perfect. I love that. It will work because it has been proven to work, right? This is not just something we're making up.
Definitely.
And again, yeah. So tonight, we hope that, let me see, you were walking away with some of these tidbits. I was keeping notes myself. I hope that you walk away knowing that generational wealth isn't reserved for someone else. It is reserved for you too. That is good. It isn't reserved for someone else. It starts with the decisions you make today. And so we both were reminded around our mindset and those small changes that can make a huge difference along the way. Thank you, Jeremy and Pia, for sharing your experiences.
Thank you.
Your expertise and encouragement with us tonight. Thanks for letting me dig a little bit there and at each point and be like, a little bit, so I appreciate that. Before you go, I want to say to mark your calendars for our next Beyond Table Talk, which is held the fourth Wednesday of every month. Next month's conversation is decoding insurance. We talked a lot about insurance tonight and what that means for protecting your assets. So we will dive a little deeper into that. Decoding insurance, life insurance, health insurance, auto, and renters. So, and I'm assuming we'll have, because we're talking about renters, we're also talking about home ownership. So, Jeremy, so you know, after tonight's discussion about building wealth, we'll tell us how we're doing. We'll talk about how to protect it, things that you worked for. And that was something that we covered tonight, protecting your assets. So on our screen, you should see our post survey QR code. Tell us what you thought about tonight. And your feedback matters. Please take a moment to complete our short wrap-up survey. Your feedback helps us continue creating conversations that inform, equip, and empower. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Beyond Table Talk. We truly appreciate you, our viewers, and we want to give a special thanks to our moderators and panelists for sharing their wisdom tonight. You can check out their bios to learn more and their contact information. We also want to thank our sponsors who make these conversations possible. And we encourage you to stay connected, follow us on social media, engage with the conversation, and share with your community. If you'd like to sponsor an episode or get involved, we'd love to have you to be a part of this journey. Scan the QR code. We take this moment to thank our incredible team that brings this program to life. Before you head out, please take a moment to fill out the post-checkout form. Your feedback really matters. Let's keep the momentum going, and remember, the most meaningful conversations don't just happen at the table, they live beyond it. See you next time.